So hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. So we'll start our human conversations today with my four friends and colleagues, and we're gonna do a round of introductions. So please go ahead and say your names, talk a little bit about your work, and then any starting words or messages for today. So I'll start with Lama.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm very excited to be here with you guys. Thank you, Luis, for this opportunity to share the space, and Cielo, Stacy, and Milena. And thank you for everyone who's joined us from all around. I'm Lama, I'm in Canada. I've been doing emotional intelligence, very passionate for this field of emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and cultural intelligence from my past, from having grown up in different places and in different countries. It's been a little bit growing up of, at that point growing up, it was a little bit of a confusing stage for me. And then as I grew up, it's nowadays when I realize the importance and the effect and the blessings that those experiences brought to me. Within all that confusion growing up, I didn't know there was this something called emotional intelligence, where I could tap into and I could find my strength and my voice. Today, I'm working in this field. I'm working with youth. I'm working with women, and I'm working with men who are individuals or corporations who are looking to grow in that space of emotional intelligence.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Lama. And for anyone, if what you hear from the presenters is something that is relevant to you and you'd like to connect, all of the presenters here are open to being contacted via LinkedIn for, if you want to learn more about their work, or if you like to engage them for their work, you can do that. Cielo.
Hello, my name is Cielo, and I'm just so grateful to be here with everybody and discuss emotional intelligence and other concepts that are surrounding this really important topic. So I am currently in California. I have my master's in applied clinical psychology, and I worked as a mental health therapist, doing group and individual therapy with clients. And I quickly became burned out and realized that I could utilize the concepts that I was working on with my clients, and those namely being mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and stress management. And so I started using those in my own life and really began to have a passion for mindfulness. I went and got my certification in mindfulness and meditation. And then I went and got my emotional intelligence practitioner certification. And I started a business where I do coaching, consulting, and corporate training to help people grow in emotional intelligence and learn how to utilize mindfulness throughout their day to do better and be better, especially for entrepreneurs and leaders within businesses. I'm also a research fellow for a tech startup that is, looking at democratizing mental health resources. So that's kind of a little bit of what I do. Yeah, thank you again, Luis, for bringing us all here for these conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. So excited to have you here with us today. Stacy.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I am Stacy Idema. I'm calling from London, England today. However, I was born and raised in the US. In fact, part of my interesting EQ journey has been leaving the US and really finding myself in a different country and starting a new business in the last year. So I call myself a whole human business coach, and there's a reason for that. My entire life has been in business. My parents were both business owners. I was formerly married to a business owner, spent 26 years in corporate, and much like these ladies have already talked about, there was a little bit of burnout. There was a lot of EQ that was needed. But ultimately, I ended up finding coaching by way of my own coach about 15 years ago. And through that process and through my redundancy in 2019, I made my part-time coaching business into a full-time practice. And ultimately, it led me here last year for a few months to explore what it would be like to be in a different country, to be a woman in a different country alone and starting a business. And I loved the experience so much that I returned on my own innovator visa and am now the founder of the Global Collective, which is an ecosystem really that enables businesses and business transformation and the evolution of gender equity. And coming up on off the heels of International Women's Day, and for some business have chosen to make it a week, and Women's History Month. For me, it is about gender equality and gender equity, but I also believe that we can't do it in a vacuum. And so it becomes, how do we create a system that allows men to step up to be advocates for women? And then how we as women, how do we learn different ways to step up for ourselves? Because most often we become our worst enemy. So I am exceptionally excited to be here to have this conversation with you guys today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stacy. So happy that you are with us today. And then last but not least, my friend Milena.
Hello, thank you, Luis, for bringing us all together. Hello, welcome everybody in the chat. So happy we have the opportunity to talk about emotional intelligence, because I think it's like the topic we need in the future. And so yeah, I'm a mental coach too. I'm coaching for 2 years in the areas of burnout prevention, emotional exhaustion, lack of creativity, lack of purpose. And I work with individuals and also from the corporate on work-life balance. And yeah, I'm finishing my psychology studies at the moment, and I'm also doing art therapy. And in all of these 3 realms, I use a lot of emotional intelligence, and especially in the art therapy, that's a skill you really need, because you cannot define things over the language. You kind of really emotionally connect over forms and colors. So wherever I go and whoever I work with, emotional intelligence is a core part of what I do and how I connect. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thanks to all of our panelists here today. For those that are just joined us, like I said at the beginning, what we'd like to do is just to have a very open, unscripted conversation. We'll talk about what is in our minds, and anyone who is on the call can participate. You can ask questions, you can share your comments, and if you are camera ready and want to come and join us here at the podium, we can do that. So I'd like to start with a thought that when you guys were talking about burnout and the need for emotional intelligence, it's interesting when we get contacted. This happens to me, I'm sure it happens to you too, that folks contact me. Like I got a one last night. It's like, Luis, we really need you. Like my company, you gotta come and train these folks. And I think it's because they're feeling that, their team members need more of understanding, their own emotions and the emotions of others. So maybe that's something that I love to hear your thoughts. So emotional intelligence needed in organizations. Maybe Cielo, I'll start with you. Some thoughts on the need for emotional intelligence out there for teams in organizations.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I like to make jokes about how having me come in as a trainer can be like a business's worst decision sometimes, because, businesses need their employees to put the business first sometimes, but I always tell people to put themselves first. And that really has to do with that self-awareness aspect of emotional intelligence. And on top of that, your leaders have to be emotionally intelligent to understand that my employees need to put themselves first. And you have to be okay with that, because if you don't have employees who are getting rest, you're not going to have sufficient output for your own company or your own business. And I think it's really important to have, mindfulness and emotional intelligence trainings for employees, not only employees, but for leaders, especially because once you have emotionally intelligent leaders, that's going to trickle down to the rest of the company, to the employees. And I don't know, I'm sure the other ladies would back me up on that, but I think it's important that all levels have emotional intelligence trainings.
Thank you. Thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually introduced to EQ when I was leading a large program in corporate, and we were really struggling with communication. And there's only so many different webinars and classes and courses that you can take on communication. And it was really the framework of these really emotionally charged situations are happening over and over and over again, and we never feel like we get anything done. And the worst part about it is we feel like we're against each other. So for me in the work that I've done and how that started was very specific around how do you even communicate in a healthy manner. Back to your point, Cielo, about being aware of yourself, because communication is more than just language, verbal language. It's body language, it's tone, it's perspective, all these things that are so much more than what many perceive. So when you have that awareness, even within yourself and how you're looking at things, whether I like to call it my three-step ladder. Are you at the middle rung of curiosity, or are you at the lower level? And when you're sitting at the lower level, there's the eruption of emotions. So how can you move from that low level to the middle level rung? Because most believe that they have to go from really negative to really positive, and I believe EQ starts at curiosity. And so in that environment where there is all that emotional charge, where can you step back and get to curious and then go from there?
I like it. And that connects actually with, we have a point here or a question from John Altov, who is saying, with the war in Ukraine, what are the impacts that you're all seeing on the emotional state of those around you, impacted many thousands of miles and kilometers away? How do we ease everyone's anxiety, and should we, and do we care or do we not? Who wants to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So I think it's very important to know that this is a situation that triggers like almost everybody of us, and like old feelings are coming to the surface for everyone, and they tackle around safety, and they tackle around threat states. So I think it's very important for people to engage people back into a room where they feel like they're protected and they're outside of their danger zone. Even though it's miles away, it's important for the nervous system to just feel calm and for people to manage each other. So the negative emotions don't add up when we don't start to feed on to the fear, right? So it's bringing it back to a state where we have control. And even though there are global problems, like we can have local impact, and to get people back to having these little moments of impact where they see they can actually do something, where they see that they have energy to move things in a positive way around their little spot, then it makes it more digestible, all of the things that happen on a global scale.
Thank you. And that's something that I'll add to that too, is that from an empathy standpoint, sometimes kind of we just worry about the things that we think impact us directly. So like, well, if the war is not happening here, then why should I care? But it's more about getting interested in somebody else's something, and just kind of being happy with somebody else's victory, but then also feeling the worry and the sadness of something bad that is happening to somebody else, right? So for the people of Ukraine that are having to resist this attack, is like you leave it to them only to feel it, or do we all feel it? Especially because even though we may feel that we don't have anything to do with that, actually that has an impact that goes beyond the borders of Ukraine. Thoughts? Anybody else on thoughts on that great question from John?
I would like to just build on also, and from what Milena was saying. I spend time on LinkedIn. I spend time with people talking, and there's this a drive right now to sort of fix things. We want to fix things, and the other drive that I see a lot out there is like I'm moving from moving from the empathy standpoint that Luis was talking about, from understanding how the person is feeling, to prove that it's my side is the side that's right, your side is the side that's wrong. So there's a lot of issues around that, and not standing in the point where I get it, I know how you feel, and let's see what we can do from that circle of understanding. As Milena was saying, let's see what we can do. There's stuff that's out there. I'm here in Toronto, this is happening in Ukraine, so maybe directly I cannot do anything to fix it, I can't stop the war, but let's see what I can do over here in my space right? Where I can directly or indirectly touch positively, what's happening. But what I see a lot, and where emotional intelligence, mindfulness, and cultural intelligence would walk in, is that a bit of empathy, a bit of understanding, a bit of connecting and communicating from a point of view where I'm not proving who's right or wrong right now. This is not the time for that. I'm just giving the space to settle in and see how I can help.
And Lama, I'll just quickly like to build on that, in that this is, what they say, that leaders, like a leadership moment, a leadership opportunity. So for leaders is, what do you say something or don't you say something, right? Because sometimes not saying something is saying something. And then organizations, what is the role of organizations do? So I'm seeing out there organizations, even very prestigious schools, that have publicly, condemned the attacks, and they I think other organizations choose to kind of remain silent, and let's wait for the storm to pass, and then we'll reemerge and come out and try to stay far from any conflict. And I think that's changing. People are expecting the organizations to speak up. I'm going to read a comment from Christy Lassenberry. She's saying, I am feeling a great deal of stress. Everything from politics, war, COVID, finding a new career, dealing with some family issues, etc., etc. Sleep is affected, constant anxiety. I know many others feel the same. How is this affecting people on their jobs? What are you seeing? Who would like to take that? Stacy, you want to take that?
Well, yeah, so I don't know if I can speak directly to what I'm seeing about people in their jobs. I know that what she's described, I've seen that just holistically. And as someone who had life-limiting anxiety up until about 10 years ago, I feel that, I feel that pain. I feel that that overwhelming sense to, in essence, it becomes a control. How do we make things better? How can we control our part in it? But as somebody who is also very mindful of it and now chooses to look at things a little differently, how do I say this? It is about going back and really putting perspective on what you can do, because you can only do so much. And so if in your list of 10 things, you're trying to solve all 10 of them, it's not possible. And so it becomes an exercise in prioritizing. What are your top 2 needs? What are your top 3 needs? And nothing more than that. Because even that in and of itself is overwhelming. If family and career are the most important, focus on those things. If doing something about Ukraine is important to you, decide what that is going to be. Is it donating money? Is it volunteering and doing something else? But set aside that specific thing that you would like to do and grant it and give yourself permission to do it, and then step back to those things that are truly important. Because when you focus on too many things, nothing is resolved, which then amplifies the anxiety even more. So again, it goes back to just being very aware of what is your priority in your space and what you can and cannot do. People talk about releasing. It's hard to just release something. You have to fill that space with something else. So allow the space that you have to be filled with the things that are most important to you.
Thank you. I love that. And so were you going to say something, Lama?
Yeah, just quickly on that, I've seen quite a few organizations out there also that are creating space for their corporate staff to just, let's say in the morning, 30 minutes, let's talk about it. Let's everybody come together and let's express our feelings. And we all know that the more we express, the more we share, the more we can, find strength from each other, right? And to find solutions to that. So just acknowledging, validating the feelings of people with no judgment, just, I think that could be a great reason.
Absolutely. People want to feel seen, heard. And something even to connect to that, that's, we've talked about curiosity. I think, Stacy, you talked about curiosity. One of the opportunities with curiosity is that sometimes when something is happening, it could be just a partial manifestation of something bigger. So with curiosity, when we see something, for example, Cielo, you were talking about self-awareness. So if I see something that I don't like, it's an opportunity to evaluate not only, so if I see somebody who's having a behavior that I don't like, I don't appreciate, and it's affecting me, I can think about it, well, that may be only a partial manifestation of something that is bigger than that the problem may be bigger, and I could very well be part of what's happening. So I need to look and think beyond that person. So I was talking with a psychologist yesterday. I was talking about toxicity, and people always think of toxicity like in the workplace as other people are, toxic, like I'm never the one. But what they may not realize that what happens is that there are toxic situations in which they actually could be very well be part of, and they are actually participating in the toxicity, but your perception is that it's always the other people. So on that note, about when something happening, kind of having the curiosity to look beyond that, on the conversation about Ukraine, we have a comment here from Rania that she says, Ukraine war has been devastating for the whole world. And not to take anything from the pains of anyone, it has also been disheartening. It has also been, sorry, I have to, because it's moving for me, exhausting, emotionally draining, and triggering to feel how dismissive media has been to other struggles around the world. Yemen, Palestine, Afghanistan, etc. Prioritizing people's pain over other has been disheartening and heavy. So, right, there are regions around the world that are saying, wow, Ukraine is getting all of that attention. What about us? We've been in this situation for a long time. Nothing, we don't get. So it's, kind of how do we look beyond that particular situation? And for anyone, realizing, that what's happening in Ukraine is terrible. Where else in the world may something like that be happening? I know, for example, I come originally from Latin America, and our countries in Latin America are going, we probably, somebody would argue that it's not as bad. But, my original home country, Venezuela, for more than 20 years have been, struggling to find a better, system, a better life. So anyway, good. So thank you, Rania. Great comment.
I don't think,
yes.
I'm gonna jump in here. I don't think she's saying that, one struggle might be worse than another, or looking at it that way. I think more looking at how the media is portraying the struggles differently. And, it is disheartening to see how the media portrays one region's struggle versus this Ukrainian struggle right now, because there are different narratives that are being played out in the media. And I think that it's important to sit with those emotions and really allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, because just trying to move past them isn't going to help you. It's going to just ignore the emotions that you might be experiencing. And so really sitting with those and allowing yourself to feel them is going to be important.
Perfect. Thank you. Great point.
If I may say also, okay, I'll go after Stacy.
Stacy.
A couple things. One, I think that with George Floyd and with everything that has happened in the last couple of years, I certainly think that there's a bit of a compound effect. And not to minimize what has happened historically with other countries, but there's certainly a new, we have the resources to know what's going on at the moment it's happening, which I think also creates some additional angst, right? You are fed into it. And so I think from that standpoint of also getting curious with yourself about how can I remove myself from that so that I'm not playing on repeat everything that is going on. But again, not to dismiss what has happened in these other countries. What I'm seeing is that there's all these things that have happened in the last couple of years, very specific to just the world and the other people that are impacted. And the media is, that's unfortunately part of their job is to report, and more often they report the negative or the bad, and that can seem like that it has dismissed or minimized other individuals or groups or regions, if you will. But I had a point and I was going to make it. Now I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Lama.
That's okay. It'll come back. So Lama, you had
back.
something to say, and then just a quick check on time. We're now 30 minutes into the call. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to send us in the breakout rooms. Milena, you're gonna be leading what is the question that we're gonna send the groups with. So be thinking about that while Lama participates. We'll come back, we'll explain the question, and then we'll break into rooms. Okay. So Lama.
Yes, continuing on Cielo and Stacy's point and talking about what Rania is mentioning, it has been like totally disheartening. And I think if we were not in this field and growing our emotional intelligence, maybe we would be reacting and instead of responding, right? But yes, it has been very difficult. I, like Luis, also come from Venezuela. I come from two very beautiful countries that are like spotlighted right now in the media. I wish it was for their beauty and magnificence, but it's for all the things gone wrong, which is Venezuela and Syria. And so I know how difficult it's been the last few weeks to hear about all the media messaging and the wording that it's being used, and at some point you fall into this a feeling of unfairness. And if we go to what David Rock says about feeling threat in a social state, is that feeling of unfairness. And that's where I say the more we grow ourselves, the more we grow this field, the more we can talk and mention and again respond and not react and correct those people in the media. They're saying they're doing their jobs. I did global affairs in my younger years, and to be in the media, you have to be educated and know. So factually, much of what was said is wrong, factually, historically, etc. But again, to stand in there, I think it's the more we create awareness, the more we know how to respond, how to clarify. I think we would do everybody much good. And again, as Luis always says, it's empathy, and not putting somebody's feeling more than other. Just recognizing everybody's feeling as valid. Nobody's better than anyone at the end, right? We're all the same.
Yeah, I love it. We're all the same. So on that note, what we would like to do now, we have 34 folks here in the group right now, and thank you for the comments. A lot of comments on the chat. Please, check those out. I won't be able to read them all, but I am reading them, but I can't read them out loud for everyone. But check them out. Thank you for all of you that are writing. So we're going to go ahead and break the group, the 34 of us, in about 9 groups. So some groups will be about 3 or 4 people, and we'd like to set you with a question related to the conversation that we're having with emotional intelligence and how we can navigate through these times. So Milena, what question are we going to be sending the group here with? What question you want to pose to these folks? You're mute.
Yes. So we've thought about many questions, but I think we can go with the one: what human factors help people thrive at the workplace? And I think that could be really in the context of what's happening right now. Yes.
Okay. So then how do just for everyone, making sure that, so kind of connecting the conversations we're having today, right? How we can leverage emotional intelligence at work, and it can be how to navigate to have a better impact, but then also in these times of conflict, world conflict, how can we leverage emotional intelligence to to survive and to thrive? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create 9 groups, like I said, because the number is not exact. We're going to have groups of probably 3 and 4. But go ahead and so we'll I say 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in your group, and then we'll come back, and then after that we'll have a conversation about what we talked about. Okay, so let's do it. So here you guys go. All right, so welcome everybody. Glad to have you back. Would love to, I know that was a little time for all that we could have spoken, but at least to give you an opportunity to talk to someone in a smaller group. Would love to hear from anyone, not just the panelists, but anyone, any thoughts on your conversation? Who would like to share any of the conversation that you guys had?
Hey, Luis, this is Ajay. I can share something.
Okay, go ahead,
So,
Ajay.
I mean, my take on empathy is, we had discussion about I think empathy comes from your experiences in life. It comes with yourself putting in somebody else's shoes and experiencing what they go through. It also comes from your awareness, your knowledge, right? So we talked about a lot about things happening in Ukraine, and somebody mentioned about we not paying enough attention to things happening in other parts of the world, right? So as a human, we have a tendency of just moving away from one thing to another pretty quick. So our attention span is very short. And again, as somebody said, it's amplified by the media for sure. I mean, they portray one side of the things, and that creates a narrative, and then we have this thing like good versus evil, right? We are the good people and the rest of the people are evil, so we have to fight them and do whatever, right? So my perspective would be we probably need to create some sort of a standard in terms of empathy, which is universal, whether it's in West, East, South, North, wherever, right? And then maybe we have to tweak the empathy based on individual society, country, mixture of people, because, I can't, a person who has born here and grown up here cannot probably empathize in the same way that a person has grown up in, say, Yemen or Ukraine or some other place, right? Unless you really go there and put yourself in their shoes and experience the whole trauma, it's very hard. You can see on the television, experience somebody getting hungry and not eating and crying and stuff, and deprived, but then you move on. Next story comes and you move on, right? So experience and awareness I think is very important in creating an empathic society in general.
Thank you very much. And I think that's Ajay, thank you for your participation. You bring up a great point in that what can we do to try to put ourselves in various situations and places and being with different people so that we can have different experiences that will give us the knowledge to be able to understand and empathize with other people. It's hard to, I think you bring up a great point in that the knowledge is important. It's hard to empathize with something when we don't know the situation. Rania, I think you want to comment. Please go ahead.
I'm just gonna build on Ajay. I was privileged to have time to speak to himself and Nadia, I think I said this right. It's a beautiful name that I was very interested in, but we discussed, we very much to build on what he was saying. We also kind of ended with remembering that, that saying, until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. And so one of the ways, Luis, that could be done is maybe we can or the ideas I might add is to encourage your team or people that you work with day in, day out to exercise storytelling. Maybe that could be a way where you can give people the opportunity to learn different views and different experiences from people from their own perspective or from their own lens versus, just kind of, sending them to go learn more about it or something like that. But to learn bit by bit how to empathize through people's stories.
I love it. I love it. The importance of storytelling. And so Carlos, you have your hand up. I'm going to give you the word here in a minute. And I'd just like to mention that speaking about storytelling, we have Art Jones in our call today, who is an expert in storytelling. So maybe Art will give the word to Carlos, and I'd love to come back to you. And some points on, I think Rania said something very important, the power of storytelling in helping people to connect with you and understand your story. So be preparing for that, and we'll go to Carlos. Carlos, your point?
No, thanks. Thanks for letting me speak, and sorry about being late. Hi, everyone. I echo the last comments. Storytelling is everything, and I think to to the point earlier about, moving on to the next story and trying to figure out how we could empathize with people globally or from different cultural contexts. It is self-awareness, and it's also, it's about being curious. We have to really start to become more curious. We can't just rely on our traditional ways of getting information, whether it's through friends or families or news, whatever. We have to really be curious about what's happening with the weather and finding out what is our intrinsic and extrinsic interest in that. Like, what is the value that it brings to me? And I think as a leader, as a person in a community that's probably diverse, it benefits all of us to be a little bit more curious. And so that really rounds out the empathy piece, is to see how it is from your view, is to be curious about what that view looks like. And I think I mentioned it in my comment really quickly with the group I was in, is if any of us think of any leader that we've been with, or leaders or mentors in our lives, I bet you those leaders have a lot of attributes, and two of them would definitely be curiosity and empathy. So
yeah, wanting to learn more, right? And being tolerant to questions. Sometimes people don't like being asked questions, but questions, it's a good thing. It's a way to expand the information. Art. You're mute. Mute there.
It's a great question. Thanks for letting me come on the stage, so to speak. Storytelling. I've been involved in storytelling since I was born, because humans are wired for story. We think, we dream, we problem solve in story. If I have a flat tire and I come home, my wife says, "Why were you late?" Let me tell you the story, what happened. But storytelling in my world is the third rung on the ladder, because story listening comes first. When I seek first to understand the person that I'm engaged with, I'm listening to their narrative, and I'm asking open-ended questions to get them to tell me who they are. And that shows respect to them. It shows my interest in them. And then when I ask the second level question, I engage in what I refer to as story building, because now it's a collaborative story engagement. So tell me more about that. Well, you said that, but I think this, and now it's a give and take. So when the ultimate story comes, when I have to tell somebody about the person I just met, it's not my story about them. It's the collaboration that we had about their story, so I could clearly understand them. So story listening and story building precedes storytelling. That's really what I wanted to say.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks so much, Art. I always learn so much from you in terms of storytelling. All right, so we'll go back to any thought? We're going to go back to our panelists. Before I do that, any other thoughts from participants, from the audience, from your conversations? Anything you want to bring up before we go back to our panelists?
Yeah, so Luis, this is Ajay back again. So to Rania's point about, storytelling and stuff, there's this thing in, I don't know, it's Denmark or one of those Scandinavian countries, where if you go to the library, either you can check out a book or you can check out a person. So, and then you can sit with the person and you can, discuss his or her life story. So that's a good way of doing that in the corporate world too. Maybe, create some sessions where you bring people from diverse background, just talk about, their experiences in life, and that would probably open a lot of different, ideas and how to bring, people together, I guess.
Absolutely. Let's make time. I asked one question on LinkedIn, and it was whether for you to meet with somebody, does there have to be what is in it for me? Does there have to be something in it for you to be able to meet with somebody? And it was just, I was encouraged with a lot of the answers. So I don't have the number in front of me right now, but the vast majority said that no, that there doesn't have to be something in it for me. But, as long as they think that they can, both people can benefit just from learning from each other, that was very, very encouraging. So, all right, any other thoughts before we go back to our panelists? All right, so you can always let me know, raise your hand if you want to say something, but I'm going to go ahead and call my folks here. So I'll start with you, Lama. So bringing you here to the spotlight. Then we're gonna have Cielo. Where you go, Cielo? Okay, here you are. And we're gonna look for, where's my friend, Stacy. And then I'm looking for my friend Milena here. Milena, where you go? I can't find you. All right, we'll see. Okay, here you are, Milena. Oh, wait, I lost you again. Okay, here you are. All right, very good. So we'd love to circle back with you. So for anyone, you were in the breakout rooms with your folks. Any thoughts from the conversations you had that you'd like to share with the team? And again, for all participants, if while the panelists are speaking, there is a thought that you have here and there, feel free to either write on the chat or let us know if you want to speak on video, and we can bring you back up here with us, okay? So thoughts from your conversations.
Yes, so I just wanted to say, so it's always so nice to see people that really want to engage and they want to listen and engage in storytelling and everything. I think that's the basic of really getting to know each other, feeling each other, and also seeing where changes need to happen and how can we build community and how can we build safe places to share. On the other hand, I just also want to encourage people to not overload their nervous system, because like the media like overruns with negative stories, and like also if you really want to change the world and you really want to engage in as much as possible, you have to also set boundaries and to be able to be like, how many stories can I really feel and take this day or this week, and how much time do I need just for myself in self-care, self-regulation, so I can actually function. Yeah, and I think that sets the base to engaging with all the emotions you have, and then you're taking yourself back in a way where you just also have your own room where you regenerate in these times. It's very important, I guess. Yes.
Love it. Great point. How much news do you want to take in a day, right? News is important to be informed, but they can also overwhelm you. So make sure that you know how much media you can take, how much news. I love that. Other thoughts?
Andrea, Randa, and I had a really great discussion in our breakout room about how one of those human factors that would help people thrive in the workplace is, you know, humans have a need for connection in a sense, and having that sense of belongingness. And so being able to create those connections with other people in the workplace, to, you know, really authentically bring yourself to the workplace is really important too. And then just understanding that your sense of belonging isn't dictated by those around you. It's dictated primarily by yourself. And I know Andrea had so many really great things to say, and Randa's doing research on how, you know, children are experiencing difficulties because of the loss of connection or the loss of communication. And so, I don't know, we just had a really great conversation about how we can bring that connection back to the workplace.
I love it, connection. And on that point, quickly, it's interesting the differences in, I know some of you have worked on cultural diversity, and we have Nadesh with us here as well, who's an expert in cultural diversity. But it's interesting, when I was in Latin America and we were at work and you're going to start a meeting, you start by, hey, how you doing? How's it going? What was the weekend? What did you do? How's the family? How's little, you know, Johnny, and all of these things, you know, ¿cómo está Pedrito? How's Maria? You know, and it's just kind of all that, and so somebody would argue that you kind of waste 10 minutes or 15 minutes of a call, but you kind of lose to win, because you are, you know, technically losing sometime, but then you're gaining a lot of traction because you're finding that connection, right? That allows you to understand. And in some other parts of the world, I think we're more in drive mode. So when it is, you know, time to start, you just kind of get going with whatever you have to do. So you become very transactional and very tactical. So somebody can be in the meeting and tell you whatever you want to hear, but that you're not hearing what is happening inside of them, right? What could be actually having an impact in the way that they're going about their work. Okay, good. Thoughts, Lama, Stacy?
I will. A couple things. I actually made some notes, but the one thing that stood out the most was we talked about understanding people at their core. And when you do that, it takes time, and there's so much pressure to do so much and to go. So to step back and take time to really understand people, that's one of my mottos is business is always personal. And in the corporate world, there's this perception that you can't bring, you know, personal things into the business world. And I think it does a disservice, not only to the employees and the leaders, but it also does a disservice to the humans that are there and the business as well. And so one of the things that I always go to, even if I'm not in a place of curiosity, is I'm human. and so is the person across from me. We are both humans, no matter where we are in the world. We are humans at our core. Which leads me into one of the topics that we were talking about as we got back into the larger group was some of the comments that I get here, even having worked with global teams in corporate for years. Now that I'm here and learning the culture of what it is like to be in England and to be in Europe, I will often get oh, that's such an American thing. And the question back to me is, do I blow it off as I kind of brush it off, trying to hurry up in the conversation? And the answer is not as much anymore. What I'm learning to understand is how certain things show up in different ways, but they are very much how we do things. It just shows up in it, just like communicating, right? Some countries communicate in one way over another. So German is very stoic and doesn't say much, right? Luis, you would say you get into an environment where you're communicating all the time. So I'm learning to come back to those things and to say no. Yes, that might be something that we do in America. However, finding that assimilation that reminds them that, again, we are all still human and we're all really ultimately here for the greater good. We want safety, love, peace, food, shelter, water, etc. So it's definitely something I'm working on, but I think at the core of it, we are all still human. And sometimes that is really lost in it.
Love it. Lama.
Yes, I see Carlos also wants to add something. So I don't know, Carlos, do you want to add something directly related to Stacy so that the idea doesn't?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was just gonna say that's great, Stacy, and just to kind of for everyone, I want us to think culture of about from nation to nation, but culture from a more broad perspective. Culture is the way a community is a way an organization is, what a team within the organization is. So culture, much like diversity, has many dimensions. And so don't look at culture just as I'm Black, you're Caucasian, I'm Canadian, you're American, but it's also about look at culture more like the way we do things around here. And the reason why that's important is when someone comes into that community that is different, we all treat that person differently because they're not doing things as we do them around here. We always talk about culture fit. Well, what is our culture as a team, as an individual? Because that curiosity then informs that empathy side of understanding where we're coming from and where they're coming from. So I just wanted to add that really quickly. Thank you for letting me say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important. Actually, just to add to that point, Carlos, that if we ask people if they're open-minded, I'm going to do that question on LinkedIn, on the LinkedIn poll. Are you open-minded? Because I'm going to get most people say yes. Nobody's going to say I'm not open-minded, but the question is, how open-minded are you to somebody who acts differently, right? Who has a different culture, who says things in a different way, communicates differently, right? Has a different perspective on things. Are you relating better with those that think like you? I get a lot of people that tell me, "Hey, Luis, I like to meet with like-minded people." You say, "Well, you only want to meet with like-minded people." Or somebody tells me, "Luis, I have to introduce you to somebody because he is Latino too. He speaks Spanish. And it's like everything is the same as me." It's like, okay, yes, I can meet the person, but I'm not only interested in meeting mirrors of me. I want to meet other people too, right? So great point there, Carlos. Okay, good. So let's see. Any other thoughts, Cielo or Milena, that you'd like to add before we move on to a different point?
Yes, I would love to add what you said, Carlos. I think that gives us like a ground to establish a new culture, because when you come from a place where you have a culture established and you're creating a new platform where you say what matters, what doesn't matter, and how can we like learn to go from here to establish a culture that we actually want from where we're coming. And I think that's the creation part, where we actually get into action, where everybody is from a feeling and perspective wise on the same level, and then you're creating actually the culture which you want to have, instead of what you said, you're this, I am that, and so like a culture without any like a label-less culture, or like the culture that you actually want to create beyond the you're this and he's that. And I think that gives a lot of room for every leader and organization to step into that. Yeah, what are we beyond the labels?
Love that. Intentional culture. So don't let the culture just happen. You want to, make it the culture you want. Okay, fantastico. Any other thoughts or on this or anything else?
Yes.
Who would like to?
Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. Okay, it's kind of interesting about culture, what Carlos says, because when I teach languages in a class, it's not the same if I teach a language if I teach a language within a cultural environment, because a language without culture does not stand alone. When you talk about culture, also everywhere that you go, there is a culture. And what I do, I just arrived to the south of Brazil. So the people, I was living in Rio de Janeiro, and they're totally different, so I have to watch what people say, how they talk. I gotta, put my ears, that's gotta be my stronger skill, my eyes and my listening. People don't talk about eyes, but your eyes, human beings, everything comes to the eyes, 70%. So also, I think it's very important to be humble. When you let your ego get in the way, that blurs your sightseeing. So when you're humble, it's kind of like you expand your vision, and it keeps you attached to the ground. And when you're humble, I'm saying this because also when there is a strong need, like if you live in a country where you need things, you start to be creative. So humbleness is always good, especially if you manage departments and you say something wrong to an employee. So you got to watch, you got to talk with little adjectives, and you got to plan what you're going to say to those people. One thing that I really like about breaking environments was when I did my internship at the Red Cross in Minnesota. She was very nice, the lady that hired me. So she put a small plate with coffee, tea. That's, food is always an icebreaker. And it was really nice, Also, for opening up, there was an open door philosophy for management. That was back then, every company is built different. So when I worked in a Japanese company, they had everything in the Panasonic, everything was open. We didn't have no walls, so we have a straight communication. But I was, and they brought my coffee to my table, so you don't waste time talking.
Wonderful, I love it. I love the visual. So you said a lot of important things there, and but I just want to comment on the visual of you coming into an interview and the company putting food on the table and a coffee or something, because it's like, hey, we're friends, we are in a more of a family environment here. I would love that. I've never had anybody offer me coffee or food during an interview, but I should do it as I look to hire people. Put some food and coffee there. All right, good. I see your hand is up, Lama. Thank you, Paul. Thank you always for joining us and staying with us. Beautiful points there on language and culture, the importance of being humble, that humility, and having our eyes open also, right? Not only our ears, but our eyes. I love that. So Lama, if you want to comment on Paul or on anything else.
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to comment on Carlos and Arthur. I totally, on board on the sense that it takes curiosity to want to, know about the person. And I would think also it takes intentionality. I have to be intentional. I have to want to, and not put people in a box. and this person, it looks like this, or they come from here, so let's put them in the box. And then I kick in all those preconceived ideas that I have been listening to in the past, right, about what people from this area or that area, whatever, are supposed to be like, and just strip myself away from all those preconceived ideas and just take the person for what they are. So going back, that's on Carlos's point, and then going back to Arthur's, is that I loved what he said about the listening first before the story. It's got to be that listening, right, and with total openness, right, and the empathy and the understanding and all of that beautiful things that come along. Lastly, just quickly, this idea that we are nature and nurture. We grow up and we've been told that over and over again. We're nurture and nature. And the beauty of what emotional intelligence does is to tell us that there's a way, also a bigger, possibility from nature and nurtures that we can grow it. We can take that, but that doesn't define us and that doesn't limit us. There's always space for us. And as Viktor Frankl says, that beautiful space where we can grow, right? So, in building in that, in that space, be it through emotional intelligence, through mindfulness, through cultural intelligence, just building on that and being able to blossom there for us and for those around us.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's always room to grow, and we should all grow. And we think we are all good people because we have good intentions to be good people, but we can always be better, right? So that growth is, is lifelong learning and lifelong growth. I love it. Cielo, were you want to say something? Okay, you're good. Milena, Stacy? Okay, good. And I've seen, I'm sorry that I can't read out loud all of the comments in the chat, but there are multiple great comments. I saw one comment from Tomas Perez, if you're still with us. If you are camera ready and you want to come up here and join us, I think you're bringing a great points here around empathy. So if you'd like to share those here with us, we'd love to have you here, come up to the podium, right? But he's talking about, are you ready to come here and join us?
I'm ready. I don't know if I'm camera ready, but I
right,
can share
so
the thought.
Okay, I'm gonna bring you in here. Okay, right. I can't spot you because you don't have your camera on.
Right.
So do you want to turn your camera on, or you cannot turn it on right now?
I'm not camera ready. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay, no problem. So go ahead then. But you want to share? I love the comment that you wrote here, that people think that having empathy is having to agree with someone else's point of view, but that's
Right.
a misunderstanding and misconception, right?
Right.
So do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, Luis, I think that I can only speak for myself, right? But I think that one of the biggest issues that we have, and this is regardless if it's within the workplace or even within your own community, family members, is that, people think that just having empathy is having to agree 100% with someone else's point of view, values, and that's not really what it is. It's about being always open to listen to someone, because as you know, Luis, and I'm not here to teach anyone, you're all experts in this subject matter, but when you hear someone, it could make the difference for them that day, that week, that month, that year. Especially today when we're dealing with so much, issues with emotions. I have dealt with them. I continue to deal with them. It wasn't until the past 2 years that I have felt that this was real. As a matter of fact, I'm guilty of somewhat criticizing others in the past about perhaps dealing with, emotional issues, mental issues, and then I'm like, okay, slap me in the face, and it's real. So back to the point is that at the end of the day, it's about us being able to understand that someone that could be right next to us can have different life experiences, and that makes that their reality could be completely different than ours. But only just lending that ear and just being able to listen and just to understand their point of view, that makes a big difference. And I will say this, I will encourage all of you guys to voice that you understand someone else's points of view, because the power of the word that we have, just to say, you know what, Lisa, I totally understand your situation. Please let me know if there's anything that I can do for you. And you can also say, I don't completely I agree 100% with what you said, but I can understand where you're coming from and I feel you. So if there's anything that I can do to help out, to support you, I'm here. That makes a difference. And I'm one of those that believes that every day we're here to make a difference. And I just posted something just moments ago when I said it's up to us to make a difference every day. Let's not wait for others to do the job, right? If we do the job every day, then we're doing what we're supposed to do. And I know that everyone within this group here, I'm sure that we do that, right? So I will encourage you to do that every single day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tomas, for those beautiful and inspiring words. A lot of wisdom in there. I love it. And it's kind of this thing about where we, different stages of our lives and in where we are in terms of like recognizing and honoring other people's feelings, and even when they are different than ours. I know that, with mental health awareness going up, a lot of efforts and campaigns. Part of it is suicide, right? So the organizations that are helping people to understand more about suicide, because it is a crisis that unfortunately is not getting better. And one of the things that they've done is they show images of people that like the minutes before they, or, hours, right? The moments before they committed suicide. And it's like, some of them were just happy talking to other people and just to explain, like, you don't realize how people are experiencing their own pain. And sometimes they actually being able to demonstrate that a person that, and everybody's different, but in some cases, some people that took their lives have been trying to talk to other people, but the folks that they talked to didn't think that it was a big deal, right? So it's unfortunate. So that's a great segue, Tomas, to our close. We're now moving into closing mode as we're getting down here to our last 10 minutes. So I would love to give the opportunity to my four friends and panelists who have been very generously and kind today to be with us to, just kind of close us up. We have about, maybe about 2 minutes for each one of us to go ahead and, close up, wrap up with the work that you're doing. How, whether you are open or not to connecting, what are the ways in which people can connect with you, and then send us off with your final words of wisdom for the morning for me, but afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the country. So I'll start with you, Cielo. Close us up with your part, and you're sending us with your words of wisdom.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, I'm just happy to be here and be a part of this conversation. These conversations are so important to really, impress upon people that emotional intelligence is necessary in life, in business, within communities. And something that I want to leave with you is something I brought up in the chat. We've been talking a lot about curiosity, and one of my many mantras is I breathe in curiosity and I breathe out stability. Whenever I have a difficult conversation that I need to, be a part of, I always remind myself, breathe in curiosity, breathe out stability. And it's a really good visual too, right? If you visualize yourself being curious, taking perspectives, trying to understand somebody else's point of view, or asking questions as to what their point of view is, and then really noticing yourself be more grounded within that can be so helpful in responding to those situations rather than reacting on impulse or emotion. So, yeah, and I'm open to connect, of course. I can put my LinkedIn link down in the chat.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. I have a website that I can also put in the chat. Yeah, so I'd love to connect and possibly collaborate with anybody who is open to it.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Cielo. Let's see, Lama, your final words of wisdom to send us off.
Oh my goodness, final word. Let me think about this. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very open to connecting, collaborating, anything that we can do together to, as we say in Venezuela, our little, bit of sand that we can help, make this world a better place. And final words of wisdom, you know what, quickly. I was born into a Muslim home. I was raised all my life in Catholic schools. I grew up my teenage years in Japan within Buddhist and Shinto religions, and I live in Venezuela. My kids are Canadian. I live in Toronto. My kids are Canadian, and I'm 51. And for the life of me, until now, I am yet to find what is it that is so different about us. I find all the time, what is it that we're connected with? You know, we all eat the same and sleep and heart and feeling, and we all want the same things and we all feel it the same way. So how is it that we can camp on that? How is it that we can grow that and just, you know, strip away a little bit more of those differences and bring a bit more of those, you know, similarities that we have?
So a lot of lived experiences there, Lama, different parts of the world, different religions, raising kids in a different country, different languages. I love it. Wonderful. It's been definitely a pleasure. I know Lama for more than 20 years. So so happy to continue to be in contact with you, Lama. Thank you for all that you helped me with. Stacy.
Yes, I am very open. Thank you. Let me start with this. Thank you very much for this beautiful conversation. I love talking about this. I am definitely open to connecting with everyone and certainly would explore opportunities to collaborate. So feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all under Stacy Kehren Idema. My parting words. Empathy is actually a process. So you can't just I mean, I suppose you could, but for me, it has become, it's been a process, and that actually has started from within, just having some self-compassion and kindness for myself. And when I do that, I know that I can show up and be a better empathetic human. So I think it's that reminder that start with kindness of self, compassion breeds compassion, and being curious and being empathetic. When you are curious, you actually create a level playing field. So go to that place of curiosity, allow yourself to be in that what if, and what would happen if I just extended something good from me and allow it to expand beyond. So that's it for me.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Stacy. And last but not least, my friend Milena, go ahead and close us up with your parting words for today. All the way from Switzerland, Milena.
Exactly. Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody to engage in these conversations, like wherever you come from, like you're adding to this. And I think that's a sign that we recognize we're all humans and we all have different jobs and backgrounds, but we're here and we're talking about the same thing. And I think for organizations, it's just so important if you work in HR or even if you have a company, like send out these mails where people can actually see which therapists are near them, which coaches are near them, make them be aware of the opportunities they have when they struggle with mental health issues, and also build a culture where self-care is cool again, where also you would share if you go to a therapist or somebody else would go through something and they share, so we can all get into the realm that we're all human, we all need to work through things, and it's okay, and we have an open culture towards that. And yeah, so self-care becomes our next level where we grow and thrive in, and we remind each single one of us that we need this, and we build community around that too. So yeah, I encourage everybody to continue this path in that way. Yeah.
Fantastic. Self-awareness, really, really important. All right. We got to take care of ourselves and then go take care of others and the world. So I would love to thank each one of you. Lama, thank you very much for making the time to be with us today and for all the great work you're doing out there. Cielo, thank you for so much. I've learned a lot from you, and you've been with us in multiple sessions, so it means a lot, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and with all of everyone. Stacy, thank you, and congrats and kudos on your braveness to go and move to London and get your own visa and work with the entrepreneurs. Is very inspiring and fascinating, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you. And Milena, thank you always for your passion and your drive to get people to change the way they look at things. Again, always enjoy our collaborations and look forward to continue to collaborate with you. And then thanks to everyone who have taken the time to join us today. I know we did 90 minutes, which is longer than you want to be in these meetings, but I wanted to make sure that each one of us had the opportunity to share thoughts and perspectives. So again, my name is Luis Moreno. I have a lot of passion for emotional intelligence and human-centered leadership. I always grow when I have the opportunity to collaborate with other colleagues and experts in human-centered leadership and emotional intelligence from the US and other parts of the world. Everyone on the panel has said that they are open to connecting and open to explore opportunities to collaborate. So feel free to connect with them. If there's anything that I can do, for anyone of you or anyone please, you know where I am. I am out there on LinkedIn. This session has been recorded. We will be posting it on YouTube. So if you want to watch it again, you want to watch what you heard or what you said, or if you wanted to share it to somebody that you care about or that you love, please do that. And with that, we're coming up here at the top of the hour, 10:30 for me, different times for you guys. But thanks everybody, a pleasure. And look, let us know also, the final thing that I would say is each one of us, Lama, Cielo, Stacy, and Milena, we like the work that we're doing and we want to get better. So we're open to feedback. If there was something that we did or we said or that you liked or didn't like, or that you wish that we hadn't said or that we said more or whatever is, go ahead and let us know. The promise that we have is that we will take your perspective, we will consider it, we will not become defensive, and we will use it for our own growth so that we can be better and better and help more and more people. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.